Hey guys, welcome back. Carter, BitsBeTrippin. We're going to do a real quick one today. This one's going to be covering Coinbase. Coinbase just put out an article, and it's kind of a change of tone from them. And I know a lot of people have been asking a lot of questions with, when is something like Ravencoin and a few of these other coins going to be listed? What are the procedures? What's going on there? How does Coinbase, now being a public company, start to change, its tune on DeFi? And Brian Armstrong, in an article that just came out yesterday, kind of tries to answer some of that. Now, do we take Brian for his word or what? Who knows? But he does put out there that they're going to be doing embracing some change on decentralization. Hang out for the quick sponsor for this video, and we will get right into it. Today's sponsor is Mining Disrupted. This is a crypto conference that's going to be taking place down in Miami, Florida on July 20th and 21st. BBT will be there, and we also got a coupon code for you guys that want to attend. It's coupon code BitsBeTrippin for saving 15% off. Links below. All right, guys, welcome back. Let's get right into this article that just came out, kind of hot off the press. And it comes around the concept of how does like a centralized entity like Coinbase, that's a large liquidity on-ramp, start to embrace specific things with DeFi in general. What's the interconnect there? How can a CeFi interact with DeFi in a particular way? And we'll get into that after we get through this article really quick. So I'm not going to read the total article to you, but bottom line, Brian, for a lot of the new folks, comes out and explains kind of the history of Coinbase, kind of how it, came to be, and then really where its focus point was. And its focus was mainly on the US, UK kind of market. When you look at investors trying to be regulatory compliant, being KYC, AML compliant, and creating those on-ramp rails for folks to be able to buy crypto. And like it or not, Coinbase has been kind of a staple point of liquidity to allow a lot of liquidity into the system from that point. So, where do they go from here? How does a CeFi, which is a centralized finance entity, move into kind of the next phase of what crypto is as new networks are spinning up and new functionalities coming online when it comes to like NFT markets and that sort of thing? How does Coinbase do that? Well, what they're coming to is they're looking to bring additional more assets. Now, I think they do this at some risk, obviously, to investors. Do your own research type of stuff, but they're going to have to go through a lot more due diligence, in my opinion, on specific assets. When I look at Definity and which was the ICP that got listed, it came out around $400 on Coinbase, and it's crashed all the way down to like $40, almost a 10x decrease for anybody that was getting in at the top when Coinbase listed it. They're going to have to do some serious due diligence before these relatively unknown tokens are listed, and then all the hype comes in and people get wrecked. So it's fine that they're going to bring in more assets, but they're going to have a level of due diligence that they're going to have to provide people on that. They're talking regulatory in the second point of like right now they've really focused on UK and the United States and just European countries. This is a good one if you're outside of those countries, because if you want access to one of the largest liquidity centers to be able to buy, sell, and trade, giving you access to that helps a lot for the folks that don't have access right now. So if you're setting in a country where you don't have access, that's big news for you. Building the crypto app store. I keep hearing this kind of theme where a lot of developers are coming over to this crypto space and they're treating the dApps and some of those applications, and they see the creation of the NFTs and the unique items. They're seeing that now as like kind of the Web 3.0 version of what the iPhone did to apps, right? So as more and more apps are developed and they have ties directly to the assets being on, if it's on Matic with Polygon, if it's on Thor chain or any of these other chains that are providing like side chains and layer 2, where you can co-locate the assets, the actual data assets on like something like IPFS, it starts to bridge this gap from the application stack to move it away from centralization to more of a decentralized app. And what that really allows people to do, and I'll cut over to the screen real quick. When you start looking at all these NFT-based apps, think of any game that's out there, MMOs, yes, multiplayer online games, skins for Team Fortress 2, that kind of thing, where those are sitting on a database server somewhere in some game. You can still have all the application stack of the game being in a centralized entity, but a lot of the assets that are tied to that, if they're uniquely created on decentralized method, if it's on Ethereum or some other network, it'd be on Ravencoin's asset system, it transcends the game and it allows you to move those assets externally to the game because they might have a value for one particular person or a collector. I'll give you a quick example, an old game like Dark Age of Camelot. It's a lot of time spent on that game. Same thing with like EverQuest 2. If any of those things shut down and you worked really hard on a particular asset or whatever, and you invested in time and money, for you that has some level of value, being able to extrapolate that one item or something to where now it's part of your crypto wallet, and now you can put it out there on a separate exchange and it creates some other kind of serial value to somebody else that may have played that game. You have a buyer-seller market for those particular items. So when I look at that number 3 point, I look at what the future state of decentralizing a certain rarity of items on a network that could be conversely traveled and sold external to the core company. So it gets into a lot of property rights and IP rights from a company standpoint. It's going to be a very interesting future of how that starts to switch, where people can now move those assets around external to the game, and then you could technically just hold it in your wallet, as an asset, even if you don't play the game, but it's kind of like a trophy almost, as it were. So there's a very interesting dynamic happening right now. A lot of game developers looking at this opportunity to start to do that, and then how that's going to be taxed and how's the revenue streams and stuff from that. It's very interesting, but getting a company like Coinbase that has a lot of infrastructure and developers and people in it helps kind of move that needle, because they're already incentivized to do it by trying to grow their own business. So that's what I see as that number 3 of building that crypto app store. I think it expands past that. So the next few steps here in this, Brian covers reducing the burden on asset issuers. So people that have created networks or trying to create some kind of value, moving those questions down from 70 to 12. So it makes it more lean on the core requirements of answering it. So it's questions related really around the Howey test. Are you creating a security? What's its model? How's its governance work? Those type of things, centering around the main 12 questions versus, this very detailed 70 questions that have to go through a lot of layers. So reducing the friction and overhead is really what this statement is really just telling you, is they're still working to be compliant and do security reviews. However, the friction is going to reduce there. Creating a new experimental zone for new assets. That's interesting. And I don't know where standpoint, if this is like a way of saying test nets or kind of try before you buy type of thing. I'm interested to see how this manifests, if it's like them making an effort to create other test nets, and maybe there's a Coinbase version of test nets that people can deploy to. Moving towards approving assets for store, send, and receive. This is them effectively creating a wallet function within Coinbase that allows you to store your assets. So we think of assets right now as tokens and a particular token, but when we talk assets would be ERC 721 tokens, which are like NFTs. So think of this number 3 as some kind of foreshadowing that Coinbase is probably going to have an NFT marketplace at some point. That's the way I read that. I read that as they are going to look to create an NFT marketplace that's tied to your Coinbase wallet. Again, like that's me just reading this and extrapolating that, but that's most likely what that means. It makes sense in the space if they're already getting into this, to where they would have your Coinbase wallet that you can have on your phone and on Coinbase directly through your PC, and you would have a place to custodially store if you don't feel comfortable and you're in that space where like, man, I'm going to forget my crypto key, or I'm horrible at keeping things, or whatever your living situation is, to where it makes it a higher risk for you to store your keys, and you're wanting to offset that risk with a centralized entity that gives you that space. And again, this isn't like people that are freaking out about crypto and hold your own keys, not your coins. The majority of early folks in that are going to live by that mantra forever. It's a very self-sovereign way of doing things, and there's nothing against that. However, there's huge amounts of individuals that will never take that effort, or if they do take that effort, they take it at a lot more risk than somebody that's more attuned. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a position, it's a choice. Right? It's somebody's choice to do that. So don't feel bad if you're that person and you're like, man, I can't get this crypto stuff because I don't spend enough time on it. It's all about, are you going to accept that risk or not? Or do you want to leverage some of the services that are provided by companies like this? So don't let anybody ever try to guilt you into doing something you're not comfortable with, and then you end up losing your stuff. I've had that with people around me, friends that felt compelled to follow that and didn't have enough due diligence to follow through on the security side, and then lost their coins. Hedge your risk, my dudes. Let's get into this last piece here. and try to wrap this one up real quick, which I think is the kind of the last piece that he's really trying to change here, which is the international first mindset, moving from this very regulatory environment, high liquidity, very developed markets to more of a all country, how can we work with all these different countries and help onboard, which is really pushing, if you're outside of the main 4 kind of countries here that are listed here, this is very positive news for you. So this is a very bullish case if you're in these areas, knowing that you're at least getting the statement that they're going to move to try to improve their access to tools and services for other folks. If you're an investor in Coinbase, if you're an investor in crypto in general, you're taking the largest liquidity center on the planet effectively with crypto, or really close to one of the largest from an access standpoint. And you're getting more opportunity for those buyers that are in the US to now interact and have more potential buying and selling volume from the rest of the world. So it's a good play when it comes to having more into the system from that standpoint. So I'm gonna wrap this one up, trying to make it less than 10 minutes. And it looks like it's about 12, but be sure to like, subscribe, share. We're going to go into the Dark Forest part 2. So I'm going to go through and explain a little more detail on some of the points that I did not include in the first Dark Forest video. So if you're interested in understanding what that kind of space is, the Dark Forest being the memory pool of any cryptocurrency blockchain, but specifically around Ethereum when it comes to like smart contracts and front running and that kind of thing, we're going to peel it back a layer and go through some of the other mechanisms that are in there and some of the things like sandwich bots and get into kind of the gaming that's going on there. So if that kind of stuff interests you, be sure to like, subscribe. I've tried to explain it to you in plain English and break down the concepts for you, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.